Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening. Week 8 of the NFL is almost wrapped up, and unfortunately, neither one of our teams did not do very well today. So, Ken, I'm going to give you the floor first of all to talk about your Browns losing to the New England Patriots, since you live in that neck of the woods up in Boston area. Uh, the Browns actually kind of took a lead in this one, and unfortunately, despite 5 sacks from Myles Garrett, which was career high, and everything he did, um, it was just basically New England willed its way towards victory. I'll give you the floors. What were your thoughts on today's Browns loss today?
Well, I didn't see much of the game. I was out most of the time with my uncle, but from what I do know, Stephen, it was probably best if it was that way. From what I understand, Dylan Gabriel did not play very well. He threw 2 or 3 interceptions.
Yeah, he
He
did. Yeah.
he was asked about who's going to be playing next week. Had the Browns not made a trade of Joe Flacco to Cincinnati, they could probably bench Dylan Gabriel and have a learn from Joe Flacco. But instead, um, Kevin, the Haslam, Jimmy Haslam, the owner, traded him away. So here's a situation where, despite the fact that
Hmm.
they drafted several quarterbacks in the first round, you don't have anyone a veteran leadership to steer them, to help them. And Dylan Gabriel really looked bad out there. So really just really a bad situation for the Browns here, and they're limping. Another situation. While they did defeat the Miami Dolphins last week, um, they just did not come about looking out very well at all this week. And Stephen, this Browns organization, again, don't have much hope for them. What's interesting is that Miami did actually come back and win today against Atlanta in a blowout fashion, interestingly enough. Um, but yeah, I just don't have much hope for this team. And the fact is that the Browns, um, the Patriots, who are on a downward trajectory, have now won, believe it or not, 5 straight games, and they are now leading the AFC East with a game in hand on the Buffalo Bills, and they have a great quarterback in Drake May. They have
Hmm.
a situation where their fans can actually look and have a feeling that they have a very positive manner and that potentially looking at the playoffs this season. We always say, Stephen, that in the NFL, there's a surprise team that wasn't in the playoffs that are going to go to the playoffs, and looks like the Patriots, unless something really drastic happens, maybe on that trajectory. Do I think they're going to win the division? No, I don't think so. But I do think that the Buffalo Bills will find a way to get back on top. But in that division right now, Stephen, I don't think with the Jets and the Dolphins. Although interestingly, the Jets also won today. As I saw, they beat the Cincinnati Bengals, who really had no business losing that game, but the Jets won it. But we'll talk about that later. But I have to say that the Browns are just spinning the wheels, lost, and they're hoping to get a new stadium built, but there's not much momentum, to be honest with you, Steven, for this franchise right now.
Yeah, it was pretty rough out there today. Dylan Gabriel started off decent. He threw a touchdown pass to Harold Fannin Jr. You know, oh, sorry about that. My apologies there. Um, yeah, and then getting blown out in the second half. Mike Brable had some harsh words about the Browns after the game I guess when the gimmicks ran out, we played pretty good defense or something like that. So, yeah, no one's pulling any punches, and yeah, it was pretty downright depressing. And I totally feel it for you. You beat the Dolphins in a pretty easy manner.
And they should.
Um,
They should have beat the Dolphins. I mean,
right.
they
And now the Dolphins today, they beat the Falcons on the road convincingly,
that's
34-10 right there.
unbelievable.
You've seen the score. That was unbelievable considering all the turmoils that the Dolphins were already in. And we already kind of, most of the people out there made already a conclusion about the future of Mike McDaniel, the head coach, GM Mike Greer, Chris Greer, the general manager, and also Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback himself, too, as well. So, and yet they somehow defeated the Atlanta Falcons, who 2 weeks ago, took out the Buffalo Bills at home. So every week it's a completely different week. Some unfortunately the momentum somehow could not be sustained. And you guys have a bye week, I believe, next week. And then now you face the New York Jets, who shockingly came back to beat the Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati, 39-38. We'll get to that in a little bit too. So it's a tight, race toward the bottom that your team is facing right now, with the Jets coming up. Or actually, they face the Jets in New York because they have to make that travel after the bye week.
Right.
So next week, not this week is bye week. So the week after, they have to go to New York. So that game could ultimately might end Kevin Stefanski's tenure with the Cleveland Browns, if the Browns look sluggish out of the gate, and God forbid if they lose to the New York Jets at home. That could, I don't know if Kevin Stefanski and the Browns can recover from that at all. So, it's a horrendous loss. I feel your pain. Meanwhile, my Chicago Bears had a horrendous game against the Lamar Jackson-less Baltimore Ravens, 30-16. The Bears actually moved the ball very, very well on their two opening positions, and all we could muster was two measly field goals. If we got at least a touchdown in one of those drives, I think the game would have been much different. And then toward the end of the first quarter, when Baltimore started to move the ball with Tyler Huntley and then Derrick Henry doing all the heavy lifting, and then scored a touchdown, you kind of felt that it was really, really bad, because Baltimore scored a touchdown where the Bears had two positions and all they could come up with. It was a 2 field goal from 6-0 to 7-6. The Bears never were able to catch up with Baltimore, largely due to penalties and lack of self-awareness. We saw a couple of times where Caleb Williams tried to gain a massive yardage, but he didn't go out of bounds. He stayed in bounds. In the first quarter, I believe, he also had a similar problems where he was running with the ball, but he ducked 1 yard short of the first down marker. And then toward the end of the game, where DJ Moore caught a Hail Mary-esque type pass from Caleb Williams, he started running down the field, got inside the 10, but he did not go out of bounds with the Bears having no timeouts. They just basically let the clock run out for 4 downs, and they came up with nothing. The defense was so short-handed, with cornerbacks being on the injury reserve. Kyler Gordon with soft tissue problems. Now he's on IR. Tyreek Stevenson, who has been playing very well this year, he has a shoulder problem. He's week to week. And then all we had was a bunch of second and third stringers playing in their place, and the tackling and the coverage was just absolutely horrible. You cannot absolutely win when your defense is not doing its job. the offense has to pick it up. And unfortunately, Caleb Williams did not look good. Some of the throws he missed it. He looked a little, still look, timid and then amped up at the same time. The throws were off. The run game, they got away from the run game, because the game was just completely going off rails, especially in the second and the third quarter, as the defense struggled. And the offense went 3 and out on several occasions, unfortunately. So that was probably the end of it. It was a massive reality check for the Chicago Bears, who had won 4 straight after starting the year 0-2. And unfortunately, without the takeovers, the Chicago Bears just, don't have enough bodies on the defense to force 3 and out. I said this before. It's basically a turnover or touchdown. There's nothing in between, and it's a problem that unfortunately we'll likely have to deal with if you're the Bears fans, like I am, for the entire season. It's basically a touchdown or turnover. And, if you get into a shootout, the Bears offense still are struggling in the red zone. And that's a huge problem as well. So, I don't know, when can we really expect Caleb Williams to, start progressing? I know there were some of the fans were like, bench him. We need to have an honest conversation about that, about him and his future with Ben Johnson, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I'm not ready to pull the plug on him just yet, but the last 2 weeks he threw, inexcusable interceptions. The one that he threw where he was staring down Rome Odunze that was picked up by Nate Wiggins at the 10-yard line, 2 plays later, touchdown, ball game pretty much. And, the Bears really need to clean up their messes. Next week, they go to Cincinnati to face Joe Flacco and the Bengals. They can score a lot of points now with Joe Flacco. You have dangerous receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Mike Gesicki. If you can't pressure, you can't cover. That's a problem for the Bears. And, you get into a shootout of that magnitude like you saw with Cincinnati and the Jets. The Bears, unfortunately, might come up at the, at the wrong end of the stick because they just can't stop and they just can't score. And it's a tough place to be in if you're Chicago Bears, as I found out today.
Yeah. And, Jets came into this game with their own controversy. Justin Fields under fire by their own owner, Woody Johnson, and then Aaron Glenn defended him. But Fields played a good game today. Give him credit. And not only that, the Jets have played with heavy hearts. Former defensive, lineman.
Center. It was center Nick Mangold.
Yep, the center Nick Mangold died today. So really heavy hearts for the Jets, but they came back with a big win, and give them credit. So it's I get, but in regards to your Bears, though, I gotta say, against Baltimore, here's a franchise that was really reeling going into this week. They had their own accusations about why their quarterback was being listed as going to be playing, and then they pulled him back at the last minute. So it was really
a full-time participant on the scouting team, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it was really interesting to see what happened, what was going on over there. And there was a chance. I thought the Bears had a chance. From what I saw, the Bears had this game was for the taking, and
it was.
It really, they were ahead late, and then Baltimore just came back. So I feel for you, Steven. I really feel that you had a chance to make a statement win for over even though the Ravens were down, coming into this game, a potential of being 1-7 or 1-6. This would have been a really big statement for the Bears to say, hey, look, we're on the way. We have a chance to win. We have a chance to make a statement. They didn't do it. And the same questions that they've had in the past in regards about this franchise continues again, and I'm very sad. I feel bad for you guys.
Yeah, losing to Tyler Huntley really, really sucks, and it's understandable just how bad this game could have been if Lamar Jackson, even at a 90%, was actually playing this game.
Right.
And the funny thing is, Tyler Huntley beat the Bears now twice. He beat them 4 years ago in Chicago, which was a death sentence to Matt Nagy, then the former head coach there. And now he beat the Chicago Bears again. He's like 15 and 27, 28, 29 in his career as well. And of his wins, two of them came against the courtesy of Chicago Bears, and it's not fun. And especially when Caleb Williams actually got outplayed by Tyler Huntley, and the defense just couldn't do anything against him either.
Right.
Right. So now the Bears have to forget about this game from a mental perspective and get ready to go to Cincinnati to play the ageless wonder that is Joe Flacco. The Bengals. They could have gotten back into the serious playoff or divisional race, but unfortunately, with the 10 days of bye week, with the rest, their defense just looked absolutely horrendous. It couldn't stop the Jets. So, and Trey Hendrickson is now injured. So that's a massive problem for them as well moving forward. The other games, basically, the Broncos are continuing to ride their hot hands, blasting the Denver Broncos this week, today. Almost a 2-minute warning and look like they're going to win. The Chargers blasted the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday night to kick off Week 8. I got to tell you, it was as a Bears fan, I enjoy the divisional rivals losing, but the Vikings are kind of in an awkward position.
Yep. Oh, Steven, I think
leading up to this game. Okay. Carson Wentz look and play like every bit as old as he is. He's taken a lot of shots over the years, which has led to his downfall after, he was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to lead the Eagles to Super Bowl, but it was unfortunately the injuries knocked him out of there. Nick Foles became a cult hero in that second season, and from that point on, it's been just simply injuries after injuries after injuries. You saw him frustrated, flunging his helmets in disgust in Kirk Herbert Street, criticizing about his demeanor and all that stuff. But I got to find it. Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
His offensive line out there left him hanging out there. Here's a guy that yes. He's played decently for Minnesota this season, but he was getting hit left and right out there on Thursday night, and I don't blame him for throwing his helmet. He was, he's a backup at this point. JJ McCarthy, we don't know when he's going to be coming. I mean, we don't know when he's coming back.
Probably this week. I know Kevin O'Connell said that he will be starting this upcoming week. So.
Yeah. But, Carson Wentz, I mean, he looked old out there, but at the same time, Steven, your offensive line, when you're running for your life and getting hit out there left and right, his left arm looked like he got hurt sometime during the game. So I got to say that I feel for Carson Wentz. I kind of don't blame him for throwing his helmet in frustration because you're coming out there and your offensive line's got to protect you. And there's only so much you can do when you're running for your life, getting hit left and right.
It looks like we had a bit of an internet issue. I apologize there for that. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, no problem. And so I got to say, Steven, the Chargers, who looked absolutely horrible against the Indianapolis Colts last week, got a big win against at home against Minnesota. So kudos for Jim Harbaugh for getting them ready for their game, especially on a short turnaround. They look much better. They ran. They look like a typical Michigan team. Um, and running the ball and getting the job done against Minnesota. So kudos for them for turning around. Especially had they lost that game, there would have been a lot of questions about Justin Herbert. But instead, they got the job done. Big, huge blowout win for them on Thursday.
Yeah, it's I think this is probably the signaling the end for Carson Wentz. KOC had a huge role in reviving Sam Darnold's career last year, while JJ McCarthy was out for the entire season with an injury. So I was kind of worried that maybe, despite his advanced age, he was going to work magic with Carson Wentz. We saw the first game where he and the Vikings blew out the Cincinnati Bengals 48-0, which also didn't have Joe Burrow, with an serious injury themselves. But again, like you said, the offensive line just can't protect, and Carson Wentz isn't exactly the mobile quarterback out there these days, he's like a sitting duck, getting blitzed and getting beat on a regular basis, taking hits after hits. So so now Vikings will have a difficult decision. What do they have in JJ McCarthy? Can they really expect him to run the offense efficiently? Because even after his first game, he didn't look good for the 3 quarters, except in the fourth quarter, which was largely due to the fact that the Bears shot themselves in the foot in that game also. So we'll find out how much JJ McCarthy has progressed while being on the sideline recovering from his injury. Kevin O'Connell's coaching prowess is going to be put to the test, just how much he can make JJ McCarthy an efficient and effective quarterback as Minnesota tries to rebound from their loss on Thursday night. The Eagles beat the Giants. The Giants, unfortunately, could not bounce back from that horrific loss against Denver, where they gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter. Now they have also lost Cam Scatterboo for maybe a long time, if not the entire regular season, because of the gruesome injury he suffered.
I saw that, Stephen. Really, the Giants, as we mentioned last week, were having hope with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, 2 rookies who are probably going to be anchoring this team for a long time. But then Scatterboo had a really horrific injury, cut it off. It didn't look very good. And you really felt for the young man, because you thought that, like I said, those 2 stay healthy, the chance for the Giants to feel on an upward trajectory. But instead, after they 2 weeks ago they beat the Giants, beat the Philadelphia Eagles at home. So they're coming in, and this time the Eagles managed to defeat the Giants at home, the revenge game for them in the division. But Cam Scatterboo, losing him, that's just got to be devastating for that franchise, because, as I mentioned, they're hoping for a lot of good things for this, and hoping for some optimism for coming into next season. But 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Jackson Dart's it's got to be more dependence on Jackson Dart. He's got to throw the ball a little bit more instead of depending on Scatterboo, who is a punishing runner. And you got to feel for the Giants right now. And Brian Daboll was probably hoping that I can stay here, coach these guys, be able to stay here, see these guys through. But while I do think that Daboll's probably saved his job for next season, it's still really horrific to see the loss of a young man in Cam Scatterboo, who was going to look like he was going to be a really great player for the Giants, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackson Dart has to do a heavy lifting now without Scatterboo, and not to mention Malik Neighbors, who suffered a torn ACL and is out for the season.
Also out there.
So they're really becoming shorthanded. Yeah, his backs are tied. Jackson Dart is a pretty mobile quarterback, and he's going to have to probably do some more running. But at the same time, that's susceptible to him getting more punishing hits as well. So, Brian Daboll is probably seeding right now. He also got fined this week for the trying to force the medical staff to try and clear Jackson Dart. Yeah, and then now Scatterboo is gone for the foreseeable future. The backs are against the wall against for the Daboll and the Giants. Let's see what they have in store. If this is going to lead to more lopsided losses where Daboll might be the next coach to get fired probably well before your Kevin Stefanski or whatnot. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how the Giants move on from this loss.
Let me just say this. I have Football Night in America, and they're going to show Pittsburgh and Green Bay. The Steelers are throwing throwback uniforms. They're going to be in yellow uniforms. Really.
I've seen those in the past.
Yeah, it look like they're prison uniforms with the way the stripes are. Aaron Rodgers is coming back to Green Bay. He actually said some nice things about saying that without Green Bay, he wouldn't be where he was. So, he wasn't bitter about it, but I don't know what those uniforms are, Steven. They look really horrific out there. They're yellow uniforms. And of course, the Packers have their own brand of yellow out there. So it's going to look really strange to see those uniforms. But I don't know why, sometimes throwback uniforms are nice to wear, like when you see the powder blue of the Los Angeles Chargers, or like the when the Patriots wear the red uniforms, like their old days back in the AFL, and before they changed them, before they went to the blue and the flying Elvis helmet. But these uniforms, and again, they just showed them again right now on NBC. A yellow helmet, a V, a yellow and a black V. I really don't know what they are. It looks like they're, it looks like like I said, they look like they're prison uniforms. And like Aaron Rodgers is playing for some like the meanest yard playoff team, and the prison. So it's really strange. I don't know what that's all. I just wanted to say that before we get off.
No, I totally agree. It looks pretty hideous, and I don't know how many people can actually focus on watching the game without tweeting something about the uniform or just how hideous it is. It is. But so we'll let the fans judge for themselves in about maybe 40, 50 minutes when the kickoff takes place. All right, let's move on to the other subject. Let's start off with the college football. It seems as though more coaches could be on their way out. Brian Kelly and the LSU looks like they are, apparently, from what I saw on X, the decision is pretty much imminent about his future. Looks like the state governor is trying to kind of get involved with the decision making, which seems always questionable when you have politicians having to get involved in something like this. So, listen, Ken, Brian Kelly, he's a nice coach. There's no question about it. He's gotten it done wherever he's been to, and yeah, it felt awkward that a guy who is not a true Southerner trying his darnest to fit into SEC, Baton Rouge, which is as Cajun and as as Southern as it gets. They're passionate about their LSU Tiger football program, which has been kind of not where they want to be with Brian Kelly in his fourth season. They got blown out by Texas A&M last night, and now we're talking about his imminent departure. And I tweeted this yesterday. Brian Kelly is the kind of person who has to keep coaching for the rest of his life. because the way his relationship with the media, especially the ones in LSU, which we've seen him in multiple blowups or getting confrontational. If you look it up, you can find it somewhere many, many times. And, this man is not Nick Saban, to be honest with you.
No,
And
not even close.
not even close. Nick Saban has kind of endeared himself as a, new media star, of course, with the Aflac and verbal commercials
And
nowadays.
College Game Day, of
But
course.
oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I don't think that any network is going to be knocking on the door to bring in Brian Kelly in any capacity because of that. His time with the LSU will probably be a a stain on his resume. He probably have to go several levels down, maybe in one AA, if necessary, if he wants to keep coaching. Like I said, I don't know how many media, actually how many TVs will be wanting him to be even a studio analyst. To be honest with you, because of his contentious relationship with the media, locally and nationally. So, literally, he's going to have to keep coaching until he dies.
Yeah.
Right now, and I think, the end is almost near for Brian Kelly and the LSU.
Yeah, I mean, last night, first of all, they came in with 2 losses, Stephen, this season. And they had a couple of bad losses already, but against Texas
Yeah.
A&M, and this is a franchise. What's interesting is that they hired the strength coach. That he was the first coach that Brian Kelly fired when he went to LSU.
Yeah.
The strength coach worked with Saban. He also worked with Les Miles, and he also worked with Ed Obregon. All 3 of them won national championships, and he stayed over there. And he was hoping to stay and hoping to establish a relationship with Brian Kelly. But Kelly was the first. This coach was the first one that he fired as soon as he got into LSU. And this coach couldn't work anywhere, but he managed to find a job, ironically, with the coach over at Texas A&M who worked with Brian Kelly at LSU. He was a defensive coordinator under Kelly. So, and he hired this guy, and we saw in the relationship, we saw that one thing about LSU over the years before that he got fired is that they were very strong in the fourth quarter. And this is exactly what happened with Texas A&M in their win over LSU. We saw them they were strong. They were not tired. And so they won 49-24 last night. This is actually a game in which LSU was up at halftime by 4 points, 18.
They were, yeah, yes.
But then they led up, Stephen, 31 consecutive points. And especially after KC Concepcion ran a punt back, that basically broke.
Returned a punt, for a touchdown.
Yeah. He returned and that put them up. That put them up 28-14, and then that was basically it. I said yesterday that this couldn't have happened to a nicer coach. Brian Kelly is a surly man. He tried to put a fake accent, Southern accent, in his introductory press conference, not a press conference, but in his introductory, his introduction to the LSU fans 5 years ago. As we mentioned, he's surly during his press conferences, especially after he loses. He's not a nice man. He may be a nice family, but he's not a nice man when he's coaching. He never was this way in Notre Dame. He never was this way in Cincinnati. He was never nice. He was always surly over there too. And he always leaves programs worse off when he left them. He thought that he would go to Notre Dame. And of course, he had a scandal in which they had a tower fall over and someone died there, and he tried to cover it up. He didn't do a very good job in just admitting that he was wrong, or admitting the conditions were bad when that tower fell. He just didn't say anything, and he left it, and he left Notre Dame really with the alumni with a bad taste in their mouths when he left to go to LSU. And I know Notre Dame isn't well liked because of the program, but I will say this, Stephen, he made Notre Dame into a sympathetic character because of the way he left and now Marcus Freeman has come in, and Marcus Freeman is a likable person. You may not like Notre Dame, but you have to like their coach, Marcus Freeman, who's a stand-up person. But Brian Kelly, he has a big buyout, kind of similar to James Franklin. And when you have Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit last night talking about the buyout rather than the potential of him staying and try to build something or try to rebuild the program, that's not a good sign. And I have a feeling, Stephen, that sooner than later, Brian Kelly is going to be out of a job. And really, he was miscast to go to the SEC. The SEC needs recruiter. They need someone who, and in this day and age of NIL, he's another He's another coach that hasn't adjusted to that in the transfer portal. He thought he could, but I don't see him lasting. And as you mentioned, Stephen, no network would be interested in having him because of the surly way he is. He's, one reason why Nick Saban works is because he has a sense of humor, although he didn't show the sense of humor when he was in Alabama, but he shows it now. But also, you have to show yourself as humble on television. Brian Kelly has never shown that side. And, I don't see Brian, Brian, there's rumors that he could potentially go to a Penn State. I don't know, Stephen. I can't see that right now.
No. I think Penn State knows they could do a lot better.
Yeah, here's a guy. Brian Kelly is a snake oil salesman. I'm going to say that straight out. I just never liked him ever since going back to his days in Cincinnati. And even as when he went to Notre Dame, like I said, he's never made the programs better when you leave it. He's made them worse. Every single one. Notre Dame, was never in a position to win a national championship, even though he was there. They always lost maybe 2 or 3 games. Now LSU is a proud school. And when you have fans leaving the game early, there were more Texas A&M fans at the end, and they were singing the LSU alma mater. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. And happening in Baton Rouge last night, very embarrassing. And I have to say that Brian Kelly, he's as you mentioned last week, as you mentioned, a couple coaches were dead man walking. He is definitely dead man walking, and I can't see him. I'm surprised we didn't hear that he was fired today, Stephen. That's how surprised I am. I'm surprised he lasted today. But I can't see him. He's definitely not coming back next season. There's no way he can come back after at least 3 losses and a team that he was expecting to win to go for a national championship. There's no way. They're not even going to go for the SEC championship, Stephen. This is really bad. And for LSU to be this bad, they fired Ed Obregon after a 2-loss season. After he had won a national championship. I mean, it just can't last. It just can't.
Right. Unfortunately. Now, looking at the scores yesterday, Indiana continues their torrid ways. They blasted UCLA. UCLA went back to their old ways. They were on quite a heater, winning Penn State and Maryland and Michigan State, also 3 straight wins coming in, but they got blasted against Indiana. Of course, I think the time zone certainly had a bit of a role there too, as well as the talent. Ole Miss keeps on rolling against Oklahoma at home. Vanderbilt shocks. Not shocking. They beat Missouri in an SEC slugfest, 17-10 at home. It's amazing what Vanderbilt has suddenly become in the last couple of years, with Clark Rea and then Diego Pavia leading the way out of the doldrums. It's simply amazing. Texas needed an overtime to beat Mississippi State. Arch Manning certainly still not looking good at all, in my opinion.
He has a concussion also, so he's in concussion protocol. We probably won't see him next week.
Okay. All right. So there's that. And then Utah plastered Colorado 53-7. It was 43-0 at halftime, I believe. And I do feel for Deion Sanders having to deal with this without his two talented players, Travis Hunter and his son Shadur. Yeah, and then all the health problems that he is also dealing with. You just wondered how long can Deion Sanders keep coaching?
Yeah, I don't see that he looks tired out there, Steven. You don't know. Like I said, I don't see him lasting. I know that he came in with a lot of fanfare coming from an HBCU when he left. And it looked like he was definitely coming in and saying this is the next big thing. And I thought definitely this was going to happen. That he was going to turn things in Colorado. A lot of optimism, but right now, it's fallen for him, and I don't see him coming back next season.
Let's move on to the NBA gambling scandal. It was a shocking news that really rocked the sports world this week, Ken. Portland Trailblazer head coach Chauncey Billups got busted by the FBI for the rigged poker game that he was involved in. Terry Rozier, who got arrested, was under the investigation for throwing the game or manipulating it. The NBA cleared it, but the feds kept their investigation, and now he was arrested also on the same day. It was very, very shocking. The whole ordeal is there are so many questions to be asked and needing answers. Ken, what were your overall thoughts regarding this scandal this week?
Well, you just can't. It's a situation where when the feds come after you, they really have something. Although Cash Patel, I don't know, tried to look. I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, in the next bracket, but he made the announcement. There's also a story out there that a former NFL player, this is in the New York Post, former NFL player also lured, was also out there in Chauncey Billups with this poker game. It's high stakes poker. People are lured in when they see like an NFL or with Chauncey Billups, they're thinking, okay, it's pretty safe. But there were a lot of high tech equipment in there, like X-ray tables, glasses, contact lenses. It's like a movie, Stephen. And the fact is that Chauncey Billups, if this is true, and again, he's innocent until proven guilty. Let's not forget that. But if, let's say, the charges are proven in a court of law, there's no doubt. There's no way he can come back from this. I mean, in a coaching situation, the feds come after you. You just can't. I can't see him coming back. Now, of course, if he beats the charges, would he be able to coach again? Probably not. I don't see. He probably won't be able to come back, no matter what happens in the NBA, because your reputation is tainted. Okay. And and the fact is that the stories are coming out. And if there is true about a former high-profile NFL player is also involved in this, then this is a wide-scale, this is a wide-ranging ring that that could be, that could involve a lot of leagues out there, and that would be very bad. It could lead to a lot of downfall of a lot of people. As far as Terry Rozier is concerned, this is again calling into integrity of the NBA. Here's a guy who would basically go out and then call somebody and say that I'm leaving, I'm out of the game, and this would influence the under of the which is in the gambling, the points, the total points involved in the game. So we've seen this before with Tim Donaghy, the referee scandal, who was trying to allegedly fixing games. Now we have a situation with Terry Rozier, a former an NBA player who's basically played for a lot of teams. I don't see him again. The situation for him, I don't see. Both he and Billups were put on leaves from their respective teams. How can they come back from this? I don't know, but you're calling to the integrity of the game, especially when you are getting out. And this was discussed on Inside the NBA on which, by the way, interestingly, debuted on ESPN this week. They talked about it. The guys talked about it. It's been talked about extensively. Yeah, every team is told at the beginning of the season how you cannot be involved in gambling, and I know the plethora of gambling now, especially legalized gambling. But we've seen it before. Boston College had a point shaving scandal back in the 70s. We've seen the CCNY with a point shaving scandal in the 1950s in college basketball. But now you have this situation, and I'm sure Adam Silver, he may have known about it a little bit, but I'm sure this probably shocked him about how wide scale this was and how wide ranging it was. And to see a Hall of Famer like Chauncey Billups, that's really harsh. And we have to wait for more information about how this comes out, Stephen. It's really, really sad because here's the NBA, which was, coming into a high for, a really good week for opening week, a lot of great games. Stephen Curry had a great opening week. The OKC coming in with raising their banner, their championship banner, and getting their rings and playing two double overtime games in their first two games, exciting games. But this is something that the NBA really didn't need to hear. And if the NFL is involved in this too, Roger Goodell's going to have something to do too. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But point shaving, fixing games, calling gamblers to tell them about to influence the under and the over under situation. That's really bad, Stephen. And look, Adam Silver hasn't said anything yet. I'm sure he's going to try to address it sometime down the road, but right now, Stephen, it's not a good look.
No, I think Adam Silver, for the first time in a long time, kind of faces a moment of reckoning for him in his career. It's important that Adam Silver take this incident seriously. NBA cleared Terry Rozier no wrongdoing several months ago.
Yeah.
Now he got arrested by a Fed that have been investigating the scandal for almost more than 2 years. So NBA, and this is not just with NBA, of course, but with the entire league, are in bed together with many of the gambling apps or what you see on television, doing sports, sports games, it's sports betting, casinos. It's literally every day, every hour, every minute, whenever you turn on the television. So I know the congressional hearing could take place for Adam Silver. And if this is what's going to be a precedent, I think you might as well bring in other professional athletic organizations, the NFL, the NHL, and Major League Baseball. Those are the areas that needs to be, have a serious attention that needs to be paid. When Terry Rozier is cleared and then he gets arrested 6 months later, there are some serious red flags, about the, the investigation, what went into it, why was he cleared, and why is he arrested 6 months later? There are many questions that needs to be answered in this manner. Banning gambling or the app alone ain't going to, kill everything. But at the same time, I do believe that, Adam Silver is not in a great spot. He's also having to deal with the, aspiration investigation involving, Kawhi Leonard and the deal he got. NBA, with the season just recently started, now has to deal with this massive headache, and I do not envy Adam Silver to be in this position. But now, because he is the commissioner, he will face his, the day of reckoning of sorts. So we'll keep an eye on this NBA gambling scandal. Will there be more people? I highly believe in that, whether it's the current or former player involved. The MLB has had some problems with the, Guardians Emmanuel Clase, especially throwing away the ball as well. These things, unfortunately, does involve athletes of every age, every race, and every level. So you just have to, use the right decision You know, because it will significantly impact not only you, your teammates, but also the people that you work with and people that you love with. Somebody like your own family. You're letting them down for a good reason. So, for their own sake and then for the family's sake, I hope you know Adam Silver takes this investigation very, very seriously, and we'll wait and see now. All right, let's move on to the MLB World Series. The series is tied uh, at one apiece. The Friday night, Toronto's bat just exploded and made a massive beatdown of the Dodgers 11-4. Yesterday, it was 6-2. The Dodgers it was not 6-2. It was 5-1, I believe. Yoshinobu Yamamoto went all the way in the distance, literally saving the Dodgers season. Ken, what are your overall thoughts on the first two games so far?
Well, they're pretty much what I expected, Stephen. I thought that Toronto, with having played all throughout the game 7, while the Dodgers had over a week layoff, hurt them. The bats, the Dodgers bats were literally silenced throughout the day. They had their opportunity to make some plays against Yasavich on Friday night. They just couldn't get the job done. And the Dodgers really, I mean, the Blue Jays really worked the count on Blake Snell, who had a great postseason and a great few starts. They worked the count on him, worked the pitch count really high on him. And then when the Blue Jays exploded for 9 runs in 1 inning, that's pretty much you knew that the Blue Jays, which also had a pinch hit home run, a grand slam home run as well. You just knew that it was not going to be the Dodgers' night. Interestingly enough, Stephen, the Dodgers have only won game 1 on the road in their history. So the only game that they won was in the Sandy Koufax pitch. So that's interesting to see. But the Dodgers are the Dodgers for some reason, for good reason, Stephen. They have a good team. Yamamoto came in. He pitched a complete game yes, against Milwaukee. He did it again last night, saving the bullpen, which as we saw in game 1, if you are able to, what the Blue Jays did was able to work the count and get the starting pitcher out of there. The Dodgers bullpen is absolutely horrific. It's absolutely horrible. And we saw that on Friday night when they were giving up runs left and right. But when Yamamoto can come in and save your bullpen, and especially with travel today and then game 3 tomorrow night, that works wonders. And, as they say, Stephen, momentum is your next day's starting pitcher. Everyone thought that the Blue Jays had momentum going into game 2, but instead Yamamoto come in and shut the door on the Blue Jays, and that was a big thing. So now they go home. They have home field advantage. The Dodgers do. Now we've seen the Blue Jays when they were down 0-2 in the ALCS. They went on the road and managed to even the series out in Seattle and get their momentum back and at least manage to guarantee the series would go back to Toronto after being down 0-2, losing the first 2 games at home. So we'll see what happens here. The Blue Jays are not a walkover. They're not going to be a pushover as everybody thinks they are. They're going to work the count. We expect Ohtani probably to start in game 4. Interesting. He got he got a nasty greeting in Toronto, but of course we all remember about the reports of him being on the plane going to Toronto before he signed in Los Angeles. So he got a big greeting. Interesting. My sister, who's going to go to Toronto next week for a work meeting, Stephen, told me today she did not know about Ohtani's history with Toronto. So she knows about the World Series, but she said, "Oh, I can't wait to see Ohtani." And everybody in the Toronto meeting just was silent. And apparently she didn't know the room and she didn't read the room correctly. So yeah, that's probably why because they're not liking Ohtani in Toronto. Oh, I didn't know that. I go, yeah, that's why. So anyway, we saw how he got greeted in game 1 and game 2. He'll get a much nicer greeting when he's home. For the at least we know that at least this series is going to go 5. It's going to be a fun series, and I think that and I know that a lot of people are rooting for Canada because Toronto because they're Dodgers. But I'll say that, and I said this last week. I said the Dodgers will win in 6, but I'm going to say that this is not going to be a pushover. Toronto is a tough team, and if they have a chance to work the count on the Dodger pitching, especially tomorrow, I have a feeling, Stephen, that they and if they're able to get past Ohtani on Game 5, they have a chance to close out the series and may not be able to have to go home. But we'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to watch, and we have a series at least.
Yeah, it is. It is a series now. I think both teams find themselves happy that the game was split. I think, of course, nobody would want to be in 0-2 hole like Toronto already did, and still came back to beat the Seattle Mariners in the AL.
Oh, wait a minute! I think we have some breaking news. Pete Thamel of ESPN has said that LSU coach Brian Kelly was informed of the intention to dismiss him earlier today. The school is expected to inform the team of this development tonight. So talks of
okay, I see it.
Are expected to continue. So it looks like Brian Kelly is going to be released and probably as soon as tomorrow. So we'll see how. So that is just coming in. That's just breaking as we are talking about right now. We talked about. I said that, and I said earlier in the show, I was surprised that Brian Kelly wasn't let go earlier today, but apparently it is happening. LSU coach Brian Kelly is going to be apparently let go, and he was, according to Pete Thamel, was informed of the intention to dismiss him, and the school is expected to inform the team of this development tonight. So apparently that when they go into their next game, they will have an interim coach.
Yeah. The wall is suddenly closing in on Brian Kelly. Now I think we're discussing probably the buyout terms and the approval from the governor, because I think every college football coach is a state employee. So there's that. Now, my take on the World Series is I think I agree with everything you just said. Basically, Toronto's a tough out. We saw that in Game 1. They were just basically being very selective on the pitches, fouling off many of them.
It's official. Brian Kelly has been fired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So, Toronto's a tough out. I think the Dodgers are lucky that this game is 1-1. Yamamoto's complete game saved the Dodgers from going 0-2, which is not a good place to be in, especially when you're as talented as the Dodgers are. Because there's no guarantees that you're going to win all 3 games at home if you go 0-2. I picked the Dodgers to win in 6 games, and that's still my forecast prediction. And the durability of Yamamoto, I think, was kind of brought up, interestingly enough, in my drive this afternoon in Detroit, listening to a local radio station as they were kind of still, determining or hearing the rumors of, Tariq Skubal potentially being dealt this offseason, knowing that he becomes a free agent next year, and then, him being represented by Scott Boras. They want, to surpass Yamamoto's number, $400 million or so, apparently. But, the Japanese pitchers, they are well experienced in these types of situations. In the massive high school tournament, Koshien, these guys, even in the preliminary, like the preliminaries in their own states or prefectures, they're used to throwing 150, 160, 170 pitches with no regards to their arm health. And then sometimes you have to pitch all 4 or 5 games just to win the their tournament to get into the high school tournament. So they're built a little bit different. So I just wanted to point that out to you. And Yamamoto's emergence is significant. I think he is by far when it's all said and done, when the postseason is over, I would say maybe he could be a top 10, top 5 pitcher in Major League Baseball. And I think he's already making a compelling case for him to be the MVP if the Dodgers do win. Of course, his fellow countryman Shohei Ohtani has to really pick it up there. You know, he had a home run and a hit in the first 2 games, but certainly I think a lot of the fans are expecting more out of Shohei Ohtani starting Game 3 tomorrow night. And I do feel that Ohtani's, bats are still, the keys to the Dodgers winning. And, hopefully Ohtani will get out of his funk and, start producing at Dodger Stadium. So it will be interesting to see what the next 3 games holds. Is this a sweep for the Dodgers? Will any team win 2 out of 3 and go back to Toronto either way? So that's my take, and I'm very, very excited about this World Series and how it's played out. And hopefully we still have plenty of more great games left to watch moving forward. All right, Ken, I'm done. I think I pretty much covered everything about the world of sports today. You got any final words that you want to touch on before we put a bow on the show?
Well, as we mentioned, Brian Kelly looking like he has been let go. There's going to be a team meeting, according from what we're seeing, at 8 o'clock Central Time, which will be coming up in the next hour to inform the team of Brian Kelly's dismissal. As I mentioned, here's a guy that really didn't endear himself to the LSU community. His previous 3 coaches at the LSU program, Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Obregon, all have won national championships, but he never made the playoffs, which is a big thing in LSU. You're expected to win, and he didn't. And while he has a winning record, 14 losses over a span of 4 years isn't going to cut it. You're expected to have less than that. You're expected to, if you're going to lose, you're expected to have 1 or 2 losses a season. You can't have 14 in a 4-year span. That just doesn't cut it, Stephen, as you well know. And the fact that Brian Kelly came in from Notre Dame, as I mentioned, he's left every program worse off than he's been when he found it. He's doing the same thing with LSU, and he's going to get a big buyout, just like James Franklin did. I think the buyout for him is $58 million. So don't cry for Brian Kelly. He's going to get a lot of money, so he doesn't have to coach next year. He can get his money and leave and go vacation and talk about my family, whatever he talks about. So, good riddance to Brian Kelly. Good riddance to him. He was a miscast. It was a marriage that just did not work. He came from Boston. He tried to become a SEC.
We're having some issues.
Totally miscast, and we see the results that he is going to be gone before midnight tonight. And that's it. That's all I got to say. And good riddance to Brian Kelly. We will not have to talk about him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, sorry. We had some Wi-Fi issues a little bit toward the end of it. And also in between there was a bit of a lag there. So we apologize there for the technical issues there. Thank you very much to 92 people for joining us tonight. It's been a long day. I'm sure a lot of people had so many football to watch yesterday and today, and then the World Series Friday and Saturday as well, and then starting tomorrow, Game 3, 4 and 5 in LA as well. We'll be back to talk about the World Series. Hopefully by next week we will know who will be the World Series champion, and we'll talk about more on our observation on the rest of the series, now tied at 1-1. We'll probably learn more about the NBA gambling scandal. Will there be more people involved, current and former coach, players? Will Adam Silver speak up and what he has to say about it? Will the other leagues be forced to face their own reality about the prop bets, whether they should ban them or not? Will the Congress overreach goes to other leagues such as MLB, NFL, NHL, or even MLS, for that God's sakes. It's going to be very, very interesting, how this plays out. But Ken, thank you as always for joining me tonight. Hopefully next week, well, at least you don't have to deal about, Browns loss because the Browns are off. I hopefully have something positive to talk about as the Bears head to Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals and what I expect to be a shootout because neither team can play a decent defense right now. So, Ken, thank you as always for coming on tonight. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, same time. And have a great rest of tonight and have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you again next time, Ken.
Yep. Have a good night, Steven. And at least next week, the only good thing I can say is that the Browns won't be losing, but they won't be winning either because they'll be having a bye. So we'll talk to you next week and we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how many more college coaches are fired by next week too. So have a good week, everybody.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.